I'm with Hamish Turner today from Hamish Turner and Associates in New Zealand. Hamish manages the largest rent roll brokerage firm in New Zealand. And today I'm going to ask Hamish some questions. And look, one thing that comes to me quite often, and I want to hear your advice on this, Hamish. You've got somebody out there that's thinking of selling, they're watching this video today, and one of the questions they've got on their mind is, what am I going to do with my team?
Yeah.
How am I going to deal with those questions, those concerns? Do I tell the team? Do I keep this a secret? What's your advice to the principals out there that come to you today with that concern of what should they do? What's your advice there?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. I've been a principal myself, and I've sold my own businesses with staff and in place. And my advice for the high majority of vendors is to tell nobody. Don't tell your staff. Have your limited circle advise and have strict confidentiality with them. When I say your strict circle, lawyer, accountant, husband or wife,
Yep.
and that's it.
Minimise the damage.
Yeah. The reality is that the business isn't sold until you have a buyer, and it's not even sold then until conditions are satisfied.
Yeah.
What I do think in terms of retention, mitigating attrition during retention period, is to have staff involved.
On board.
Well, going from one firm to the other. And when selling, you really want to try and look at selling to a similar or of like-minded business with similar values.
Yes.
Looking to maintain the staff on transition.
Yes.
And I mean, if you go back 5 years ago to now, it was a sort of 50-50 on whether staff were taken on. Nowadays, it's close to 90% of businesses that are being acquired take on
the staff.
At least all the property managers.
Yes.
There's usually a bit of a strip out on administration because it gets centralised, and then there's a need to increase profit margins because they're taking on debt to acquire that book. But you've got to strip out on commercial lease generally. But as a bare minimum, I see for the very high majority of the time, property managers transition over with the book.
Yeah.
So in trying to sort of push that through on the information memorandum or sales proposal or finding a like-minded business really is the key, I think.
Yeah.
Not just looking, unless it's a fire sale, you need to sell and you need to get out quick, smart, and you need a buyer that's an investor buyer that wants to just take over and but for the high majority, that's not the case. So,
okay.
Yeah, but it's a good question because it's a hard one, you know. Because the problem with telling staff is the need to update them.
Yeah.
Regularly, how do you update them about? Okay, well, we're dealing with these buyers now, and nothing's serious until they're on paper.
No.
And even then, they need to satisfy conditions. So, looking with their best interest to maintain the staff on transition and advising the appropriate time, which is when the contract's close to, if not as it becomes unconditional, is best practice.
Yeah.
The danger in telling staff for a principal is that you lose staff, and the larger. With medium-sized books, it's not too bad.
Very stressful time, but
the smaller the book, the more the dependency on the staff. The larger the size of the book, if you have 2 or 3 staff leave in a short period, it creates a big headache. So
it does, because not only that, there's a possibility of staff telling landlords, and then that whole roller coaster starts.
The other trouble is staff member leaves and decides, I'm going to set up my own business.
Yeah.
The restraint of trade is with that business. Now, if the rent roll is sold to a new buyer, it's no longer
applies.
Yeah, it doesn't apply. So it's real tricky. So, but my advice in the greatest instances is to tell as little people as possible. You need your tight group around you because you need the support during transition. There's a hell of a lot of extra work. Often there's a lot of years that have gone into building that business, so it's a transition period for the vendor, and there's often
highly emotional. Period.
I mean, when I sold my rent roll a few years back, I had a multiple location book, and I outsourced to a broker, and I knew perfectly well how to sell a rent roll, but I knew that I was emotionally attached, so I really cared about the team, and I was worried about, and I knew that...
as we do, and as we should.
Yeah, and that's
You're
this
worried
is
about
a
where
broker
number
that's pretty black and white, so yeah.
Well, that's great advice, and once again, Hamish, thank you. If you have a rent roll in New Zealand, or if you have a rent roll in Australia, please don't hesitate to contact Hamish here in New Zealand and myself in Australia. More than happy to guide you through that process. But once again, Hamish, thank you.
Thank you, Rod.